The man who hardly speaks. He is one of the most famous faces on earth. And yet he rarely says more than a few words. A grown man who thinks like a child, moves like a cartoon, and manages to cause chaos in the most ordinary places. For more than 3 decades, this strange, silent misfit has crossed every language barrier, every border, and every generation. His name is Mr. Bean. But behind this awkward little man in a tweed jacket and a red tie stands a very different person. A shy, highly intelligent engineer from the north of England, whose obsession with perfection turned physical comedy into a kind of science. This is the story of how Rowan Atkinson, a quiet boy with a stutter, created one of the loudest characters in television history, without really speaking at all. This is the life story of Mr. Bean. Chapter 1: A Quiet Boy in the Countryside. Our story does not begin in a TV studio or on a film set. It begins in the English countryside, in a small town called Consett, in County Durham. On 6th January 1955, Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born into a middle-class family. His father, Eric, was a farmer and a company director. His mother, Ella May, was a housewife. Rowan was the youngest of 4 brothers. From the very beginning, he was different. While other children ran loudly through the fields and streets, Rowan was quiet, almost painfully so. He was shy, introspective, and often happier in his own company than surrounded by others. At school, he wasn't the class clown. He wasn't loud or attention-seeking. In fact, he was the opposite. He spoke with a slight stammer, something that made him more self-conscious and pushed him even further inward. But inside his mind, there was a storm of observation and imagination. He watched people. He watched how they walked, how they reacted, how they made mistakes, how they tried to hide their embarrassment. All of it soaked into him. Tiny details that would later become the building blocks of one of the most precise physical performances in comedy history. Rowan was also fascinated by machines, gadgets, and how things worked. This quiet boy, with his large, expressive eyes and serious expression, would sit and take things apart, simply to understand them. He didn't know it yet, but he was training himself in 2 ways at once: as an engineer of machines, and as an engineer of human behavior. Chapter 2: Engineering a Mind for Comedy. As Rowan grew older, his path seemed straightforward and sensible. He was bright. He excelled academically. And in 1975, he began studying electrical and electronic engineering at Newcastle University. To his family, this made perfect sense. Engineering was stable, respectable. It was a serious career for a serious young man. But even at university, something else was emerging. In lecture halls and student societies, Rowan began to find a different outlet: performance. He started appearing in sketches and reviews, small comedy shows put on by students. At first, he hardly spoke. He didn't need to. On stage, he discovered that his face, those rubbery eyebrows, that flexible mouth, those wide, watchful eyes, could communicate everything he wanted to say, without a single word. The shy boy in the classroom became a silent force on the stage. After Newcastle, He continued his studies at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, Oxford. At the Queen's College, he pursued a master's degree in electrical engineering. But what would truly change his life was not a laboratory or a lecture hall. It was the Oxford University Dramatic Society. Here, surrounded by other young performers and writers, Rowan began to experiment seriously with comedy. He teamed up with a young writer named Richard Curtis, a collaboration that would shape both of their careers. One evening, in a small theatre space, Rowan tried something unusual. He stepped onto the stage alone. No props, no supporting cast, no spoken lines. He simply stood there, a man in a suit, and let his body tell the story. He twisted his face, squinted, frowned, looked confused, panicked, smug, delighted, and horrified, all in the space of a few seconds. He moved awkwardly, adjusted his clothes, reacted to invisible obstacles and imaginary people. The audience roared with laughter. Rowan had discovered something vital. He didn't need dialogue to be funny. In fact, sometimes he was funnier without it. This early wordless character was not yet Mr. Bean, but he was his ancestor, a prototype of the odd little man who would one day enchant the world. Chapter 3: Before Bean, The Rise of Rowan Atkinson. By the late 1970s, Rowan Atkinson's talent had begun to attract attention beyond Oxford. He performed in comedy shows in London's West End and at the famous Edinburgh Festival Fringe. His face, odd, elastic, unforgettable, got noticed. In 1979, he became part of a groundbreaking British sketch show. Not the 9 o'clock news star. It was sharp, topical, and irreverent. A new kind of comedy for a new generation. Here, Rowan did speak. A lot. He played newsreaders, politicians, ridiculous characters. His timing was razor sharp. His delivery precise. His ability to flip between accents and personalities uncanny. Not the 9 o'clock news made him a star in Britain. But it also proved something important. Rowan Atkinson was not just a face or a physical clown. He was an actor, a writer, and a thinker. Yet even in this world of fast-talking satire, one kind of humor still tugged at him. Visual comedy. The type that needed no translation. Silent giants like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and French filmmaker Jacques Tati had all built careers on physical comedy. Rowan admired them deeply. He wondered, could he create a modern character who lived in that same tradition? A character who could exist almost entirely without words. He did other work, of course. He starred in the historical comedy Blackadder *, becoming known as Edmund Blackadder, the cynical, sharp-tongued anti-hero of 4 different time periods. He acted in theatre, on radio, and in films. But somewhere in the back of his mind, the silent misfit in the suit was waiting. Chapter 4: The Birth of Mr. Bean. The moment of birth for Mr. Bean can be traced back to a simple idea. What if you put a slightly odd man into the most ordinary situations imaginable, and then watched everything go wrong? In the late 1980s, Rowan Atkinson, Richard Curtis, and comedy writer Robin Driscoll began to develop a new TV project. They wanted a show based almost entirely on visual comedy, without relying on witty dialogue or wordplay. The character's name, at first, wasn't Bean. He was nearly called Mr. White. Then Mr. Cauliflower. They were looking for a bland, everyday surname. Something so ordinary it became funny. Eventually, they landed on Bean. It was silly. It was simple. It sounded right. Mr. Bean was designed as an adult, with a child's logic. He is selfish, but not exactly evil. He is clever in odd ways, and completely clueless in others. He is an eternal outsider, never quite fitting in, never understanding the unspoken rules. Everyone else seems to know. His face would do most of the work. His body would do the rest. Dialogue would be minimal. Sometimes nothing more than grunts, mumbles, and the occasional, oddly pronounced word. In 1990, the first episode of Mr. Bean aired on British television. In it, we see him take an exam and cheat in the most ridiculous ways. We see him go to the beach and try to change into his swimming trunks without taking off his clothes in front of a stranger. We see him go to church and struggle not to fall asleep. These were universal scenarios, fears, and embarrassments that people everywhere could recognize. The show didn't need subtitles. It didn't need dubbing. It just needed eyes. Mr. Bean had arrived. Chapter 5: Engineering the Perfect Fool. Mr. Bean may look chaotic, but almost nothing about him is accidental. Rowan Atkinson approached the character like an engineer designing a machine. Every movement, every blink, every pause, every tiny change in expression was calculated. He once described Mr. Bean as a man who lives in a constant state of panic, always one step away from humiliation, always scrambling to keep control of a situation that is rapidly spiraling away from him. To create that feeling, Rowan rehearsed obsessively. He analyzed how the body communicates emotion, the tension in shoulders, the angle of the head, the widening of the eyes. He also built a very specific physical image. The suit, slightly outdated, ill-fitting, brown and dull. The uniform of a man forever stuck in the past. The tie, just a bit too short. A small detail, but it adds to the impression that something is always off. The hair, neatly parted, perfectly tidy, as if he's trying very hard to look respectable, and failing. And of course, the car. A small, lime green Mini, with a black bonnet. The Mini became almost a character in its own right. It was Mr. Bean's partner, his steed, his tiny chariot of doom. In one episode, he famously sits on an armchair, strapped to the roof of his car, steering it with ropes and a mop. It's absurd, impossible, and unforgettable. By shrinking Mr. Bean's world down to simple elements, a man, a car, a teddy bear, and a series of very normal locations, the show created a kind of playground for pure visual comedy. There were no catchphrases, no topical jokes that would age, no heavy plot, just a strange little man and the chaos that followed him. Chapter 6: A Global Phenomenon Without Words. At first, Mr. Bean was just another British sitcom. 15 episodes. Spread over 5 years. From 1990 to 1995. But something unusual happened. Without anyone fully planning it, Mr. Bean started to escape. Clips of his antics. At the swimming pool. At the department store. At the dentist. On holiday. Began to be broadcast in other countries. Because there was so little spoken language. There was almost nothing to translate. Mr. Bean could walk into a room. In London. In Madrid. In Tokyo. In Cairo. In Sao Paulo. And be understood instantly. People saw themselves in him. They recognized that awkward feeling of being watched. They felt that jolt of panic when you don't know what to do, but everyone expects you to know. The show was eventually sold to more than 190 territories, making it one of the most widely distributed television characters in history. Reruns played endlessly. VHS tapes were passed around. Later, DVDs. Then, online clips. Entire families who didn't share a common language could sit together and laugh at the same scenes. At the same silent man. Falling over the same chair. Again and again. In a world increasingly divided by language and politics, Mr. Bean did something powerful. He reminded people that embarrassment, clumsiness, and foolishness are universal. Chapter 7: Bean on the Big Screen. Television success is one thing. But could a nearly silent character carry a full-length feature film? In 1997, Hollywood decided to find out. Bean subtitled The Ultimate Disaster Movie was released in cinemas across the world. In it, Mr. Bean is sent to the United States to oversee the unveiling of a famous painting. A ludicrous decision, given his complete lack of competence. The film expanded Mr. Bean's universe. Now he was not just disrupting a British classroom or hotel. He was causing chaos in Los Angeles, ruining priceless art, misunderstanding American customs, and somehow getting away with it. To make the story work at movie length, the film used more dialogue than the TV show, especially from the supporting characters. But Mr. Bean himself remained mostly silent, still driven by physical comedy and visual gags. Critics were divided. Some felt the character worked best in shorter bursts. But around the world, audiences flocked to see him. The film earned hundreds of millions of dollars and introduced Mr. Bean to a new wave of fans who had never seen the TV series. A decade later, in 2007, a second movie followed. Mr. Bean's Holiday Star. This time, Mr. Bean wins a trip to France. What begins as a simple vacation turns into a journey across the French countryside. With mistaken identities, film festivals, and a young boy accidentally separated from his father. In spirit, Mr. Bean's Holiday was closer to the classic silent movies that inspired Rowan Atkinson in the first place. Long stretches of the film have almost no dialogue, relying purely on visual storytelling. Mr. Bean wanders through foreign landscapes as a kind of modern Chaplin figure. A lonely clown in a world that doesn't quite understand him. The film was another international success. especially in Europe and Asia. By this time, Mr. Bean was no longer just a TV character. He was a global icon. Chapter 8: The Cartoon Years. How do you keep a character alive without exhausting the performer who plays him? Rowan Atkinson understood something important about Mr. Bean. Playing him was physically and mentally demanding. Every eyebrow twitch, every stumble, every moment of awkward stillness required intense concentration and energy. As Rowan aged, he knew he couldn't fling himself around forever with the same abandon. But the world wasn't done with Mr. Bean. In 2002, a new version of the character emerged. Not on a stage or set, but on paper and in pixels. Mr. Bean, the animated series premiered on television. This cartoon adaptation kept all the key elements that audiences loved. Mr. Bean's strange logic, his beloved green mini, his apartment, his teddy bear, and of course, his ability to turn small tasks into giant disasters. Rowan Atkinson himself provided the voice, or rather, the sounds, for the animated Bean. Grunts, mumbles, occasional words, tiny exclamations. But now, the character could do things that would be impossible, too dangerous, or simply too exhausting in live action. He could fall from ridiculous heights, be chased by animals, or survive wild cartoon mishaps, while keeping the same core personality. The animated series introduced Mr. Bean to a new generation of children, many of whom would grow up knowing the cartoon before ever discovering the original live-action show. The series ran its first batch of episodes in the early 2000s, and then was revived with new episodes from 2015 onwards. In classrooms, living rooms, and on handheld devices worldwide, the cartoon Bean kept bumbling along, proving that the character could live beyond the body of the man who had created him. Chapter 9: The Private Man Behind the Public Fool. To understand the life story of Mr. Bean, we also have to step behind the curtain and look at the man who made him. Rowan Atkinson is, in many ways, utterly unlike his most famous creation, where Mr. Bean is chaotic. Rowan is careful, where Bean is impulsive. Rowan is methodical, where Bean seeks attention. Rowan often avoids it. Despite his global fame, he has always guarded his privacy. In 1990, the same year Mr. Bean debuted on television, Rowan married Sunitra Sastry, a makeup artist he met during his earlier TV work. Together they had 2 children, a son and a daughter, and for many years lived largely out of the public spotlight, away from the cameras. Rowan's great passion was not slapstick. It was speed. He is a devoted car enthusiast, with a particular love of high-performance vehicles. This interest even seeped into his work. He played a bumbling spy in the Johnny English film series, combining his love of James Bond-style action with his talent for physical comedy. But his passion for cars also brought danger. In 2011, Rowan was involved in a serious crash while driving a rare McLaren F1 supercar. The car spun off the road and hit a tree and a lamp post. It was a devastating accident. The car was heavily damaged, But Rowan was fortunate to survive with relatively minor injuries. The incident reminded the world that behind the cartoonish face of Mr. Bean was a real person, mortal, vulnerable. In his personal life, Rowan later separated from Sunitra Sastry and began a relationship with actress Louise Ford. They would go on to have a child together. Through all of this, Rowan remained reluctant to live life as a celebrity. He gave interviews sparingly. He preferred his work to speak for him, especially the work of one small, quiet, chaotic man. Chapter 10: Why Mr. Bean Works. Why did Mr. Bean, a character with almost no dialogue, become such a powerful and lasting figure in global culture? The answer lies in several layers. First, simplicity. Mr. Bean's world is straightforward. He is not rich or powerful. He has no complex backstory. He is simply a man trying to navigate ordinary life. Second, universality. We have all been embarrassed. We have all misunderstood a situation. We have all tried to save face after doing something foolish. Mr. Bean exaggerates these moments until they become absurd, but the root emotion remains recognizable. Third, silence. By avoiding language, Mr. Bean avoids the barriers that separate us. He doesn't care if you speak English, Mandarin, Arabic, or nothing at all. His comedy lives in the eyes, the shoulders, the hands, the timing. Fourth, precision. Rowan Atkinson's engineering mind doesn't just build machines. It builds jokes. He once said that comedy is about the exact right moment to start and stop a movement. Too early and it feels forced. Too late and it feels flat. In Mr. Bean, every beat, every reaction shot, every tiny gesture is placed with intention. And finally, innocence. For all his selfishness and mischief, Mr. Bean is strangely innocent. He is not cruel. He doesn't plot revenge. He rarely understands the consequences of what he does. In his own bizarre way, he is just trying to be happy, even if that means stealing your chair, ruining your meal, or accidentally destroying a priceless painting. Audiences forgive him, because deep down, he is a child trapped in an adult's body. And we recognize that child within ourselves. Chapter 11: The Weight of a Global Icon. With such success, you might expect Rowan Atkinson to spend his entire life playing Mr. Bean. But the truth is more complicated. As the years passed, Rowan began to feel the weight of his creation. He worried about becoming trapped by it, about the world seeing him only as Bean, and not as an actor capable of more diverse roles. He also felt the physical strain. Mr. Bean demanded energy, flexibility, and a kind of wild, youthful abandon. Playing a childlike character became harder as the man behind him grew older. Over time, Rowan began to step back. He appeared as Mr. Bean more selectively, in special sketches, charity performances, and one unforgettable moment on a global stage. In 2012, at the opening ceremony of the London Olympic Games, Rowan reprised the role of Mr. Bean in a musical sketch involving the classic film *Chariots of Fire* star Sitting at a keyboard among a full orchestra, he quickly grew bored, cheated his way through the performance, and daydreamed about running on the beach with the athletes. For billions of viewers, it was a highlight of the ceremony, a reminder that Britain's quietest man had become one of its loudest cultural exports. Yet even after this, Rowan has said that he does not see himself playing Mr. Bean indefinitely. He respects the character too much to let him decay into self-imitation. In interviews, he has suggested that every character has a natural lifespan, a period where they feel fresh, alive, and truthful. Beyond that point, they risk becoming hollow. Mr. Bean, for all his silliness, is no exception. Chapter 12 Mr. Bean in the Digital Age. Even as Rowan Atkinson slowed his own physical performances, Mr. Bean himself refused to disappear. In the age of the internet, the character found a new kind of life. Clips from the original TV series were uploaded to online platforms, where they were discovered by young viewers who had not yet been born when the episodes first aired. Short moments. Bean dancing awkwardly. Bean making a sandwich in the park. Bean falling asleep in church became viral videos, GIFs, memes. On social media, people used his reactions to express embarrassment, confusion, or smug satisfaction without saying a word. Official channels dedicated to Mr. Bean gathered millions of subscribers and followers. The animated series continued to produce new episodes, keeping the brand alive and current. In classrooms, teachers used Mr. Bean clips to illustrate nonverbal communication, body language, or even English language learning. In comedy workshops, students studied his timing. As a masterclass in physical performance, Mr. Bean had leapt from VHS tapes to streaming platforms to smartphones. The same character, reshaped by new technology, reaching yet another generation. Chapter 13 Behind the Laughter, a Structured Mind. To many people, Mr. Bean looks like chaos. But behind the scenes, Rowan Atkinson's creative process has always been disciplined, structured, and almost scientific. He does not improvise wildly. He does not stumble upon jokes by accident. Instead, he breaks down a scene into tiny components. What does the character want? What is preventing him from getting it? What is the silliest, most surprising way he might try to solve this problem? He blocks out movements, tests different timings, adjusts angles. He studies an audience's reaction, not just whether they laugh, but when they laugh, how loudly, and for how long. Then he refines, again and again, until the comedy feels inevitable. This fusion of art and engineering is part of what makes Mr. Bean unique. He is not just a funny character. He is the product of an unusually precise mind, applied to the messiness of human behavior. In a way, Rowan never stopped being an engineer. He simply shifted from circuits and wires to expressions and gestures. Chapter 14 The Legacy of Mr. Bean. What, then, is the legacy of Mr. Bean? On the surface, he is just a clown. A man who gets into trouble, hurts no one too badly, and walks away unharmed. But look closer, and you see something deeper. In an age dominated by words, by social media posts, 24-hour news, and endless commentary, Mr. Bean reminds us that human connection does not depend on speech. He reminds us that a single raised eyebrow can say more than a paragraph. He shows us that our most powerful shared experiences are often our most vulnerable moments. Tripping over nothing, sitting on the wrong chair, turning up underdressed or overdressed, trying desperately to appear in control when we are not. Around the world, audiences of all ages have found comfort in this strange little man. Children laugh at his silly antics. Adults see their own social anxieties reflected in his disasters. Older viewers, who grew up with Chaplin and Keaton, recognize a continuation of that tradition. Mr. Bean has also influenced a generation of comedians and performers who cite him as proof that you don't need edgy language or complicated plots to make people laugh. All you need is truth, distorted, exaggerated, and framed just right. Epilogue: The Silent Genius. When Rowan Atkinson first stepped onto a small stage in Oxford and performed a wordless sketch, he could not have known that he was giving birth to one of the most recognizable characters in the world. He was just a shy young man, testing the limits of his own face and body. Decades later, Mr. Bean has walked across schoolrooms, beaches, churches, art galleries, airplanes, French villages, Hollywood sets, Olympic stadiums, and the vast, invisible landscape of the internet. He has made people laugh. In skyscrapers and slums, in crowded cities and quiet villages, in languages he will never speak, and cultures he will never visit. And through him, Rowan Atkinson, the quiet boy from County Durham, the engineer with a stammer, the private man who prefers machines to microphones, became one of the most influential comedians of his time. The life story of Mr. Bean is also the story of how one person's deepest insecurities, shyness, social awkwardness, the fear of looking foolish, can be transformed into a universal language of laughter. Somewhere, even now, on a screen in a room you will never see, Mr. Bean is making someone laugh for the very first time. No catchphrases, no monologues, just a man, a problem, and a face that says it all. In a noisy world, a mostly silent character has managed to speak to nearly everyone. That is the genius of Mr. Bean. And that is his story.